The pounding on my front door did not match the quiet Charlotte street behind it. It was frantic, angry, the kind of knocking that rattles something deep in your chest. When I looked through the peephole and saw my brother Derek sweating, wild-eyed, shouting my name, I realized the truth. This was not about family anymore. This was about survival. And the move I made that led him here was the same move that destroyed everything he had spent years pretending to be. Before we continue, kindly comment the city where you are watching from and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story like this. Now, let's continue. I did not expect the night to start with a jolt, but it did. Derek stepped out of his car like he owned the whole street, engine still humming, music loud enough to rattle the porch windows. My mother's birthday cookout was already in full swing, the smell of grilled corn floating over the yard when he strutted in wearing a navy designer jacket that did not match the humidity of a Charlotte evening. People turned. He liked that. I watched from the deck, holding a paper plate I was not hungry for. Funny how some families revolve around one person without ever admitting it. My parents lit up the second they saw him. My dad clapped him on the back as if he had not seen him in years. My mom practically ran over, wiping her hands on a towel, fussing over his hair, his face, the heat, everything. And me? They gave me a smile, a warm one, sure, but the difference was always obvious. In this house, Derek was the rising star. I was the quiet, steady light someone forgot to turn off. He set his keys on the table like he was presenting a trophy. I just came from a huge meeting, he announced, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Of course he had. Derek always had meetings, always opportunities, always big things coming. I listened, nodding politely like I always did, but inside I felt that small pinch I had learned to swallow. If you grew up with a golden child, you know that feeling. It settles in your bones. When he finally spotted me, he grinned. Alyssa, there you are. How's the house? The house is good, I said. Peaceful. That's the best part of owning something, he replied, though he said it like he had given me the house himself. He did not know the story behind it, the extra shifts at the hospital, the months I saved every spare dollar, the nights I came home sore but proud. Or maybe he knew and just did not care. Sometimes I wondered which truth hurt more. A breeze moved through the yard, carrying the chatter from my cousins arguing over cornhole, the sound of kids laughing by the fence, the pop of the grill lid. It should have felt comforting. But then Derek lifted his voice again. Massive expansion coming, he said, slipping the claim into the air like perfume. Tech distribution. Huge margins. My family leaned in, arms crossed, heads tilted, the posture people take when they are ready to be impressed. My dad asked questions he did not actually understand. My mom kept smiling, the way a mother does when she is proud and out of her depth. I watched all of it, quietly standing by the deck railing. And for a moment, I wondered something I never said out loud. What would it feel like to be celebrated without having to perform? A strange heaviness settled on my chest then, empathy for myself, I guess. It is odd how the smallest moments reveal the truth. Sometimes all it takes is standing in the same yard you grew up in to realize you were never really seen. Derek grabbed a soda from the cooler and leaned against the garage wall like he was posing for a magazine. When he caught my eye again, he tilted his chin, that familiar signal he used when he wanted privacy. That is when the air shifted. He pushed off the wall, lowered his voice, and said, Alyssa, can we talk for a second? I followed him because I always had. But something in his eyes, a glint I could not read, told me the night was about to tilt in a direction I would not like. We stepped behind the garage, away from the laughter and the grill smoke. The cicadas hummed. The street was quiet. And Derek's expression hardened into something I did not recognize. He took a slow breath, then dropped a line so bold it sliced the air clean open. "Alyssa, I need you to sell your house." I blinked, confused. He did not smile. He did not blink. The night, the cookout, the warmth, all of it felt like it froze around me. Because that was not a request. It was the beginning of something darker. And I did not know it yet. But refusing him would set off a chain reaction I could not stop. There are some sentences you never expect to hear from your own blood. "Sell your house. I need the money. It is time you finally support the family." He said it like he was asking for a ride to the airport. For a second, I actually laughed. It slipped out of me, sharp and nervous. "Very funny," I said. "You almost had me there." Derek did not smile. He stepped closer instead, the security light over the garage casting a hard glow across his face. Behind us, I could still hear my mother's laugh, the clink of plates, someone calling for more ice. Out here, it felt like we were in a different world. "I am serious, Alyssa," he said. "You have had that little house for what? A year? It is time it did something for the family." I stared at him. "The family? Derek, that house is my life savings. It is my future." He rolled his eyes like I was being dramatic. "You are a nurse. You will be fine. You can always get another one. I have a massive opportunity right now in tech distribution. I am talking real money. But I need capital to scale, and banks move slow. We do not have time to be sentimental." Something inside me bristled. "Sentimental?" I repeated. "I worked double shifts for years. I ate frozen meals and skipped vacations so I could afford that down payment. That house is the only thing I have that proves it was worth it. I am not giving that up so you can gamble again." His eyes flashed. Again. I met his stare. "We all remember your nightclub concept that lasted 6 months. The app that never launched. The trucking thing that disappeared. You call them lessons. The bank calls them risk. I call them red flags." He stepped even closer, his voice lowering. "This time is different. You do not see the bigger picture. When this lands, I can take care of all of us. Mom, Dad, you. I am asking you to support the family, Alyssa. Do you not care about them?" There it was. The hook he always used. Family, guilt, obligation. I swallowed, feeling my throat tighten. Was I being selfish? Was I choosing walls and a roof over flesh and blood? Or was I finally protecting myself from someone who saw me as a safety net instead of a sister? I forced my shoulders to relax. My little nurse life pays my bills, and I sleep at night. That is enough for me. He leaned in just a breath closer, and I could smell the cologne he always wore when he wanted to impress people. My skin crawled. "You will not have a choice soon," he murmured. The words hung in the air like a threat. "Is that supposed to scare me?" I asked. He just straightened up, the smirk still there, and walked back toward the yard without answering. By the time we reappeared, my mother was lighting candles on her birthday cake. Everyone started singing. Derek slipped easily into the circle, clapping, smiling, joking, as if he had not just tried to rip away the one thing that made me feel safe. I stood at the edge of the crowd, the sound of happy birthday echoing around me, feeling like a stranger in my own family. Later that night, I drove back to my little house on the east side of Charlotte. I walked through the front door, set my keys on the small table by the entry, and looked around at the couch I had bought secondhand. The crooked picture frame over the TV, the soft lamp I had found on clearance. "I am not losing you," I whispered to the walls. Sleep came slow. My mind kept replaying Derek's face, the way his voice had dropped. "You will not have a choice soon." When my phone buzzed early the next morning, I grabbed it, thinking it was a work text. It was not. It was a notification from my mortgage lender. According to the message, I was 3 months behind on payments. My heart stopped. Because I knew down to my bones that was not true. I thought I was reading the notification wrong. The text glowed on my screen in the dim light of my bedroom. Your account reflects 3 missed mortgage payments. Please contact us immediately. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt. 3 missed payments. Impossible. I paid every month. On time. Automatically. I sat up, blinking, trying to steady my breathing. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe the system was down. But even as I searched for excuses, a cold, quiet voice inside whispered the one possibility I did not want to consider. He warned you. You will not have a choice soon. I forced myself to dial the lender. It was early, but the call center was already open. The hold music felt like needles against my skin. When the representative answered, I tried to keep my voice steady. There must be a mistake, I said. I have automatic payments set up. Can you check the last 3 months? I heard clicking, typing, and then the woman's voice softened. Ma'am, I can see the issue. My heart pounded. What issue? Your automatic payment account was changed 3 months ago. The routing and account. Numbers were replaced. The room spun. Replaced by who? It appears the change was made through the online portal. I did not change anything. Another pause. Longer this time. We can escalate this if you believe there was unauthorized access. Unauthorized access. Someone tampered with my mortgage. My hand trembled as I hung up. The sun had barely risen, but the house already felt too small, too hot, too suffocating. I walked into the kitchen, gripping the counter to steady myself. Who else had my information? Who else knew my lender, my logins, my life? There was only one person who cared enough, needed enough, and was bold enough to try something like this. Derek. I did not want it to be true. I really did not. For all his flaws, he was still my brother. He was supposed to annoy me, outshine me, maybe even belittle me, but not sabotage the roof over my head. But that smirk behind the garage, the threat he slipped between his words, the calculation in his eyes. I felt a cold anger rise through my chest. Not fiery, not loud, the quiet kind, the kind that comes when something sacred is violated. What kind of person does this to their own sister? I whispered. I did not have an answer yet, but I had a direction. I grabbed my car keys and drove straight to my parents' house. The Saturday morning streets were mostly empty, sunlight slanting across the pavement. The kind of morning that should have felt peaceful. Instead, every red light felt like a taunt. When I walked inside, Derek was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee like he lived there. My mother was scrambling eggs. My father was reading news on his tablet. It looked like a postcard of a normal family. And then it broke. You tried to change my mortgage account, I said without a greeting. My mom froze. My dad looked up. Derek lifted his eyes slowly, his expression the perfect picture of confusion. What are you talking about? He asked. Do not do that, I snapped. My payments were rerouted. 3 months in a row. Someone accessed my account. Who else even knows my lender except you? My mom gasped. Alyssa, that is a terrible accusation. Derek pressed his hand to his chest, offended. Wow, really? You think I would break into your finances? I think you would do anything if you were desperate enough. The silence that followed was thick and ugly. My father set his tablet down, frowning. Alyssa, your brother just wants the best for this family. Maybe this is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. 3 months of missing payments, a changed routing number, a threat behind a garage. A misunderstanding would be a drop check, Dad, I said. Not digital tampering. Derek scoffed. You sound paranoid. Honestly, Alyssa, this is why investors hate working with nurses and 9-to-5ers. You see danger everywhere. My blood boiled. This is not paranoia. This is fraud. He leaned back, sipping his coffee with a shrug. You must have clicked something wrong. Or maybe the bank messed up. Happens all the time. The worst part? He sounded believable. He knew exactly how to play them, calm, rational, wounded. and my parents ate it up. My mother wiped her hands and stepped between us. "Sweetheart, you have been under stress. The hospital is overwhelming. Maybe you are overthinking this." There it was, the classic minimization. I felt the ground shift under me, the familiar childhood feeling returning, the one where I was the problem, the difficult one, the dramatic one. Derek was always the reasonable one, the charming one, the golden one. But this time, I knew the truth. I felt it in my bones. "You can believe him if you want," I said quietly. "But something is wrong, and I am not letting him near my finances or my house ever again." Derek leaned forward, just enough for me to catch the glint in his eye that my parents could not see from their angle. A tiny smile, the same one he had worn behind the garage. "Maybe you should calm down," he murmured. "People make mistakes when they panic." The message beneath his words was clear. Back down, stay quiet, let him win. But I did not back down. Not this time. "Tell me something," I said softly. "If you are so confident in your business, why does it feel like you are terrified?" His smile cracked for half a second, just a flicker, before he covered it again. That flicker told me everything. I was not crazy. I was not imagining things. And I was not safe. Not from him. I walked out before anyone could stop me. My parents called my name, but the sound faded behind me like static. Outside, the morning sun was bright, but my hands were cold. If Derek was desperate enough to mess with my mortgage online, what else was he willing to do? That question followed me all the way to my car. And the answer came sooner than I expected, in a message from someone I had not spoken to in years. The message came while I sat in my car, hands still trembling from the confrontation. A Facebook notification. A name I barely recognized at first. Nina from Derek's old office. I did not open it right away. I just stared at the little preview bubble glowing at the top of my screen. Something about it made my pulse spike, like a quiet warning. I finally tapped it. "Hey, Alyssa, I do not know if this is my place, but I think you should know what is going on with your brother." My breath caught. That was never a good opening line. I scrolled. "I left the company a month ago. Things are not right. Derek is under investor review. There are rumors of missing funds. People think he is hiding cash flow problems. They are watching him." My throat went dry. I reread every sentence slowly, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. Derek's business failing. Investor review. Missing funds. I sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, the heat building in the car, sunlight creeping across the dashboard. The same man who lectured me about thinking small was apparently collapsing behind the scenes, and here he was trying to drag me into the wreckage. My phone buzzed again. "Be careful. If he is asking you for money, do not give it." That line felt like a hand gripping my shoulder. I typed back a quick thank you, though my fingers barely cooperated. When I told Nina that Derek asked me to sell my house, she responded instantly. "Alyssa, do not do anything until you talk to someone legal. This is bigger than a business loan." A knot formed in my stomach. Bigger than a loan, bigger than desperation, bigger than family. I shut my eyes, letting the information settle like dust. What do you do when the person threatening your stability is the same one your parents worship? The drive home felt endless. When I finally stepped inside my house, I locked the door and leaned back against it, breathing slowly. My quiet home, the beige walls, the faint scent of laundry detergent, the hum of the fridge, wrapped around me like a shield. But the safety felt thinner now. I moved to the kitchen table and pulled out my laptop. For the next hour, I searched everything I could find on mortgage fraud, digital tampering, investor deception. Each page I read made the picture sharper. This was not a simple mistake, not a misunderstanding, not paranoia. What Derek did was criminal. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. When does loyalty become danger? When does family become something you must protect yourself from? Those questions followed me through the house as I collected anything that might serve as proof. Mortgage emails, login alerts, the text Derek sent last week saying, "Do not worry about your finances. I have ideas to help you grow." Ideas. Help. Everything suddenly carried a double meaning. Hours passed. The sun shifted across the living room floor. I kept checking my windows without meaning to, scanning the driveway for his car. The truth was settling in layers. Derek was not confident. He was not expanding. He was not building anything. He was collapsing. And collapse makes noise. Noise people try to cover with charm, with excuses, with borrowed money. My phone buzzed around 10 p.m. A text from Nina again. "Something big happened today. Board meeting. Derek was not happy." I typed fast. "What happened?" Her reply came seconds later. They confronted him about missing funds. He denied everything, but they did not seem convinced. "Alyssa, be careful. He is cornered." Cornered. A dangerous word. A word that made my heartbeat thrum against my ribs. That night, sleep would not come. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the distant hum of cars passing on the main road. My mind played out every worst-case scenario, from more financial tampering to unexpected visits. At 2 a.m., I whispered into the darkness. What else is he hiding? The next morning, I got my answer in the most unexpected way. A piece of news that turned everything upside down. Derek was not just desperate. He was not just failing. He was about to drag me, and anyone who believed in him, into a disaster so big, so explosive, that once it blew open, none of us would be able to pretend anymore. The law office sat on the 8th floor of a glass building in uptown Charlotte. Cold air washed over me as I stepped inside, the kind that smells like polished floors and quiet money. A receptionist guided me to a small conference room with soft lighting and a view of the city. I waited, twisting my fingers together. Part of me still hoped the attorney would tell me this was all an overreaction, a misunderstanding. Some part of me still wanted Derek to be flawed but harmless. But the moment the attorney walked in, shook my hand, and opened the folder of documents I had brought, his expression told a different story. He read silently at first, the mortgage alerts, the bank statements, the attempted routing change. His eyebrows pulled together. Then he reached the last printout, the message from Nina warning me about Derek's investors. He set the papers down slowly. "Miss Ward," he said, "you did not imagine this. Someone attempted to reroute your payments. That is fraud." The words landed with a weight I was not prepared for. "Could this happen by accident?" I asked. "No," he said, "not like this." He leaned back, studying me. "Has anyone close to you been pushing for access to your finances?" I swallowed. "My brother." He nodded once, the kind of nod that told me he had heard this story before, not mine, but versions of it. People helping family until the family burned them. He continued, "If he is under financial pressure, that can make people take risks they would not normally take." "I did not think he would go this far," I whispered. The attorney pressed his hands together. "People hide financial trouble until they cannot. When they are desperate, they reach for whatever looks stable. And you are stable." Stable. A word that should have made me proud. Instead, it felt like a target painted on my back. "Is there anything else I should know?" he asked. I hesitated before pulling out my phone and opening the Facebook message again. I slid it across the table. He read it carefully, his expression shifting with every line. When he finished, he exhaled sharply. "This is not just financial trouble," he said. "If this co-worker is accurate, your brother may be under investigation soon. Misuse of funds, investor deception. If he is reaching out to you for large sums, it may be because every legitimate source has dried up." The room felt smaller suddenly. "So what do I do?" I asked. He gave me a steady look. "You protect yourself. And if he tries anything else, you report it. With evidence, You have a very strong case. Evidence. I had plenty of that. But something in my chest cracked, not physically but emotionally. There was a time I would have rushed to help Derek, the glory child, the one my parents adored, the one who always seemed just one step away from greatness. But now I saw the truth. His ambition had teeth, and he did not care who he bit to stay afloat. I walked out of that office with a folder under my arm and a decision forming quietly in the back of my mind. If Derek wanted to play with my life, I would show him that the quiet ones are not always the weakest. That night, I sat at my dining table with a notebook open, the same one I used during nursing school to memorize drug dosages and trauma protocols. I made a list: mortgage alerts, changed routing number, Derek's threat, Nina's warning, screenshots of his texts, login history from my bank, timestamps, phone call summary with the lender, every detail, every whisper, every digital footprint he left. The more I wrote, the clearer the picture became. Derek was not confident. He was not expanding. He was not building anything. He was collapsing. And collapse makes noise, noise people try to cover with charm, with excuses, with borrowed money. My phone buzzed around 10 p.m. A text from Nina again. Something big happened today. Board meeting. Derek was not happy. I typed fast. What happened? Her reply came seconds later. They confronted him about missing funds. He denied everything, but they did not seem convinced. Alyssa, be careful. He is cornered. Cornered. A dangerous word. A word that made my heartbeat thrum against my ribs. That night, sleep would not come. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the distant hum of cars passing on the main road. My mind played out every worst-case scenario, from more financial tampering to unexpected visits. At 2 a.m., I whispered into the darkness. What else is he hiding? The next morning, I got my answer in the most unexpected way, a piece of news that turned everything upside down. Derek was not just desperate. He was not just failing. He was already sinking, and he was grabbing for anything, anyone, that could slow his fall. Once I understood that, everything else clicked into place. The panic, the pressure, the threat behind the garage, and the terrifying attempt to reroute my mortgage payments. He was drowning, and he had decided that my house, my security, my future, would be his life raft. That realization gave me a kind of clarity I had never felt before. Not anger, not even fear, just truth. And truth, once you finally see it, cannot be unseen. That was the moment I decided to make the move. That would end all of this. I opened the folder I had built over the past week, every document, every screenshot, every login alert. Then I opened a blank email. To Derek's lead investors. Subject, regarding financial concerns. Attachments, evidence. I did not write a dramatic speech. I did not accuse or attack. I simply laid out the facts. Unauthorized mortgage access, 3 months of rerouted payments, threatening behavior, log-in timestamps, a statement from my lender about unauthorized changes, a summary from the attorney confirming criminal indicators. Plain, calm, factual. The truth did not need decoration. Before hitting send, I whispered one question to myself. Is this justice? Or am I becoming like him? But the answer rose inside me as steady as breath. This was not revenge. This was self-defense. I clicked send. The email left my outbox in less than a second. But the consequences would echo far longer. I stood up, walked to the sink, and let cold water run over my hands. They were trembling, not from guilt, but from the weight of finally choosing myself. 2 hours later, the first response came in. Thank you, Ms. Ward. This confirms concerns we already had. We appreciate your transparency. A second email followed. We have suspended all pending agreements. This information will be reviewed by the board today. A third. We will be reaching out to authorities. If you are willing to provide a formal statement, please reply. I stared at the screen as a slow, shaking exhale slipped out of me. It was already happening. The unraveling. The moment Derek had always feared. I did not reply yet. I needed time to breathe, to sit, to exist. But the peace did not last long. At 3:12 p.m., someone pounded on my front door. Hard, violent. I froze. My living room window shook from the force. "Alyssa, open the door!" Derek. His voice tore through the quiet like thunder. I stepped back instinctively. Every nerve in my body screamed, "Do not move." "Alyssa, I know you are in there." Another slam. Another. The wood creaked. My lungs tightened. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was not the smooth-talking brother who charmed investors. This was someone cornered, unraveling. He shouted again. "Did you send something? What did you do? You ruined everything." My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I dialed the non-emergency police line with fingers that barely obeyed me. "Someone is trying to break into my house," I whispered. "He is my brother." While I waited, his voice kept spilling through the door, blaming me, begging, cursing, accusing, looping through a cycle that sounded like desperation scraping against rage. He finally yelled, "You think you are safe? You think anyone is going to believe you over me?" But even he did not sound convinced. It took 7 minutes for the officers to arrive. 7 minutes that felt like an hour. Blue lights flashed across my windows. The pounding stopped. Muffled voices followed. I watched from a crack in the blinds as officers pulled him back from the porch. He tried to gesture wildly, talking fast, but they kept shaking their heads. One officer came to the door and spoke through the wood. "Ma'am, he has been removed from the property. If you need to file a protective order, here is the process." His voice was calm, patient, like he had done this before. After they left, silence filled the house. Not peaceful silence. The kind that carries shock, heavy, settling, cold. I sank onto the couch, pulling my knees tight to my chest. How did we get here? How did a birthday cookout turn into this? My parents called that night, first my mother panicked, then my father furious. "How could you get your brother in trouble?" "What did you say to the police?" "He is stressed, Alyssa. You pushed him." But the storm shifted when a second call came in. A Mecklenburg County detective. Professional voice. Measured tone. "We received reports regarding your mortgage account. I would like to ask you a few questions. It appears your brother may be involved in an ongoing investigation." Everything stopped. The world, the air, the fear. It all went still. My parents heard the truth from him, not from me. The denial in their voices cracked. The certainty broke. And for the first time in years, I was not the one they doubted. But something else happened inside me too. Something new. Something I did not have a name for yet. Because exposing Derek was not the end. It was the beginning of the fallout. The part where the truth did not just crack his image, it shattered it. The part where I stopped being the quiet one. And Derek finally faced the consequences he spent his whole life outrunning. The next 72 hours unfolded like a slow-motion collapse, the kind you cannot stop, cannot soften, cannot ignore. It began with a single phone call, but it spread through every part of Derek's life like a crack running through glass. The detective who spoke to me that night was not guessing. He was not speculating. He already had a file open. "We have received multiple complaints," he said. "Your statement connects several pieces we have been reviewing. We may need additional documentation." Complaints. Plural. I stood in my kitchen, gripping the phone, staring at the refrigerator door as if it could steady me. My voice came out thin. "Is he facing charges?" "That will depend on the findings," the detective replied. "We will be in touch." When the call ended, I stayed frozen in place. Real fear, the deep, sinking kind, moved through me. Not fear for Derek. Fear of everything he still might do. The next morning, my parents showed up unannounced. I saw their car through the peephole and forced myself to open the door, even though my hands shook. My mother stepped inside with tears already in her eyes. My father looked grim, shoulders heavy. For once, neither of them looked ready to defend Derek. "Honey," my mom said quietly. "The detective called us." I swallowed. "And?" She wiped her cheek. "He said Derek accessed your account. He said there is evidence. Alyssa, why did you not tell us everything?" A bitter laugh almost rose up, but I swallowed it. "Because every time I tried, you said I was tired, or paranoid, or emotional." My father lowered himself onto the couch, staring at the floor. "We wanted to believe the best in him." "I know," I said softly. "I used to want that too." The truth of it settled over the room like dust. Years of favoritism, years of excuses, years of believing Derek could do no wrong. This was the first time they did not defend him, and the weight of that realization made something inside me release, a pressure I had been carrying since childhood. Before they left, my father asked a question that caught me off guard. "Are you safe here alone?" For the first time in days, I told the truth without hesitation. "Yes, I have taken precautions." He nodded, slowly, quietly, as if he was finally beginning to see the world I had been living in. But Derek was not done spiraling. Around noon, I received another message from Nina. "He did not show up to the investor review today. They called him in, but he refused. Word is he has been suspended until the investigation concludes." Suspended. The golden child. The family's pride. The image he had crafted so carefully was crumbling, piece by piece. And then came the moment everything cracked open. That afternoon, I got an email from one of Derek's investor's assistants. A professional tone. Clean formatting. "Ms. Ward, your email was reviewed by the board. We would appreciate a formal statement regarding the information you provided. We also thought you should know that during a meeting this morning, Mr. Ward was confronted with your evidence. He offered no explanation. He left abruptly and has been placed on indefinite suspension, pending further review." I read the lines twice. He offered no explanation. That meant they showed him everything. Every screenshot, every alert, every detail. A quiet chill rolled through me. This was not what I expected, not this quickly, not this hard. A knock on my door jolted me upright, but it was only a delivery driver dropping off a package. My nerves were frayed to threads. I sat down on the edge of my couch and whispered the question that had been circling me for days. How far can one person fall before they blame everyone but themselves? By evening, the answer became clearer. My mother called again, her voice different this time, heavier, lined with shock. "He came to the house," she said. "Your brother. He did not speak. He just packed a bag and left. Your father tried to ask where he was going, but he ignored him." I closed my eyes. "Did he say anything about the investigation?" "No," she whispered. "But Alyssa, he looked scared." Scared. The word echoed in my chest. The next morning, a Mecklenburg County number flashed on my phone. The detective again. "Ms. Ward, we would like to schedule a time to collect a formal statement. This investigation is moving forward." The tone was not speculative this time. It was firm, decided. After I agreed to meet, he paused. "I want to note something. Your quick action protected your credit and prevented further financial damage. Most people do not catch these attempts in time." My throat tightened. "Thank you." When the call ended, I sat in my quiet living room, sunlight stretching across the floorboards. The same house Derek had tried to take from me, the place I fought for through long nights and tired mornings, felt different now, stronger, solid, mine in a way it had not been before. But the chapter was not finished. Not yet. That evening, as I watered the small fern by my window, my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. Just 2 words. "You won." I stared at the screen, stomach twisting. No name, no context. But I knew the sender, and the truth hit me like a cold wave. He was not fighting anymore. Not because he accepted responsibility, but because there was nothing left to fight with. The investors had pulled out. The board suspended him. The detective was involved. My parents knew the truth, and Derek had finally run out of rope. But the irony was sharp and painful. I did not feel triumph. I felt relief, quiet, exhausted relief, laced with something heavier underneath. The downfall was complete. But the damage was still unfolding. And as I went to bed that night, the bigger question pressed against my heart, steady and soft. When someone destroys themselves, are you supposed to feel victorious or just sad it ever came to this? The answer would come in the final chapter, the one where I chose not just how the story ended, but who I would become after all of this. The morning after Derek's final message, the world felt strangely quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm tears through a neighborhood, leaving branches scattered, but the air finally still. I stood in my living room, looking around at the place he had nearly taken from me. The beige walls, the warm lamp beside the couch, the little coffee table I had refinished myself. Everything looked the same, yet everything felt different. Safer, stronger, mine. I brewed a cup of coffee and took it onto the porch. The sun was climbing over the rooftops on the east side of Charlotte, lighting up the street in soft gold. My neighbors were heading out for work, waving as they passed. For the first time in months, my chest did not feel tight. It would have been easy to think the story ended there, Derek suspended, my parents finally seeing the truth, the detective building a case. But closure is not a moment. It is a choice you make every day you refuse to carry someone else's chaos. And that morning, I made one more choice. I opened my laptop and pulled up the refinancing information I had bookmarked weeks earlier, back when I was afraid I might lose my home. Now, I was not losing anything. I was growing. The process was lengthy, but by afternoon, I had signed digital forms, scheduled meetings, and calculated new monthly rates that would let me breathe easier. Lower payments, better terms, a safety net I built myself. And then I did something that surprised even me. I listed my second bedroom on Airbnb. Just a simple listing for travelers passing through Charlotte, nurses on rotation, families visiting, people needing a weekend away. I took pictures, wrote a warm description, added a few touches to the room. Fresh linens, soft lighting, a small basket with snacks. It felt good to create something inviting, something purposeful. By the next morning, I had my first booking. My house, the same house Derek wanted to use as a lifeline, was becoming a source of my stability, my independence, my future. But fate was not done delivering its final blows. That afternoon, my parents called again. This time, their voices were different, not panicked, not blaming, just tired. "Alyssa," my mother said quietly, "your brother is facing the board tomorrow. We do not know what will happen." I inhaled slowly. "Have you talked to him?" She hesitated. "He will not answer, not even to tell us he is okay." That sentence hit harder than I expected. Despite everything, the mortgage tampering, the manipulation, the lies, a small piece of me still felt that old sibling ache, the ache of wanting your family to be better than they are. "I hope he tells the truth," I said. My father sighed. Truth has not been his friend lately. He was right, and the truth was about to cost Derek more than money. The next day, Nina sent me the final update. The board confronted him again. He denied everything until they showed him your email, the entire thing. He had no explanation. They removed him from the project. Investors cut ties. He is being reviewed for charges. I read the message twice, my heart steady, my breathing calm. No adrenaline, no fear, no thrill, just closure. The image Derek spent years polishing had shattered, not because I attacked him, but because he built it on lies too fragile to hold their own weight. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the houses, I stepped inside my home and flipped on the warm lamp by the couch. My little living room glowed, safe, clean, quiet. And I realized something important. Revenge was not the email I sent. Revenge was not the board meeting or the suspension, or the investigation. Revenge was making sure his chaos no longer dictated my life. Revenge was choosing peace. I glanced around, taking in the place he tried to take from me. The place that now earned me extra income. The place that carried my name on the deed. The place where I rebuilt my sense of worth. Derek wanted my house to save his future. Instead, my house saved mine. Before I went to bed, I whispered a soft truth into the quiet. You will not take anything from me again. And in that moment, with the night settling gently around my home, everything inside me finally felt still. Because in the end, the quiet one was not weak. She was the one who survived.